Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Kulaga, Executive Creative Director of the New York Times live conversation series Times Talks and our new film series ScreenTimes, which hosts exclusive screenings of the most anticipated new movies, followed by intimate conversations with top film talent. I want to give special thanks to the presenting sponsor of ScreenTimes, HBO, and share the following preview of coming attractions.
Our history of racial inequality in America casts a shadow over the modern death penalty. We set up this project to provide legal services to people on death row.
Brian is the work. There's no way to separate him.
Tonight, we are taking this broken history and we're trying to do something with it.
It's important to understand all the ugly details so we can one day claim something really beautiful.
And now, please join me in welcoming New York Times culture reporter Melena Ryzik and our special guests, director A.J. Eaton, producer Cameron Crowe, and David Crosby.
You go here, I'll go here. You go here.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Good evening. Yikes, you're saying?
Yeah, yikes, I'm saying yikes, yeah. Maybe I'm not saying it to the mic. Or they don't have it up. Hi.
Check, check.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm so excited to be here with this incredible talent and filmmakers. We're going to have what I hope is an unbridled conversation because David just told me backstage, no limits. You can ask me anything.
Sure.
So we'll get right to it. I want to start by talking about how this unusual film came together. AJ, you were not actually even a huge fan of the Crows when you guys met.
Oh,
in a
you
music
told him that
studio.
again.
I did. I'm
God
sorry.
dang it.
Well, I knew like the big hits, Our House. I mean, I was aware of the music. But given the opportunity, my brother is this great guitarist named Marcus, and he and Crosby met and they hit it off. And they invited me to come and see what they were recording, which was Crosby's first solo album in 4 years, as he talks about in the movie, called Cross. And up on that opportunity, I was like, well, okay, I'll stop by. And I didn't really expect much from the meeting, because I was like, well, you know, a lot of guys that are in Crosby's position, they're recording music and it's really not fresh, and they should have maybe hung up that guitar. Oh, I'm just being real, you know. And I've been around the music business. My dad was a musician, but when I walked into that recording studio, I was totally surprised and just impressed with what I was hearing and seeing. The music was fresh. He was trying new things, and we became friends. And I said to Crosby, I was like, you know, we were geeking out on jazz music and, you know, cool things like that, and which was very surprising. And Crosby's mind is just so lucid, and he was poking fun and making great jokes. And so I was like, you know, we should shoot some footage of this just for posterity, because this is really valuable. You know, he talks about not having a lot of time. He wrote a song called Time is the Final Currency. And so he's like, okay. And then...
That's not what I said at all. I did not say okay. I said, sure, kid. I said,
Better,
sure,
yes.
yeah,
Sure,
sure,
kid.
Sure, AJ, yeah, sure.
Which was the
Right.
same thing.
He's
Go
very
ahead.
persistent. He came back again, and again. And he said, you don't... And this is fair. I was supposed to wander off into the distance and die a while ago. And it didn't happen. And everybody's kind of going, And I've made 4 records in the last 4 years, which is not what you're...
Yeah.
It's not what you're supposed to do at my end of things. You're supposed to, like, calm down and shut up and go over there and sit in the sun. And I haven't been doing that. And he said, this is fascinating. It's completely atypical. It doesn't make sense. It's not how it usually goes. And I would love to do a documentary about it. And I said, yeah, sure, kid. And then a fortuitous thing happened. I said, actually, I had a feeling that he knew what he was talking about. I had a feeling about him from the beginning that he could do it. The way he felt about film felt right. But then a fortuitous thing happened. You guys tell him the story about how Cameron got involved.
Well, you know, for a couple of years, I was begging, borrowed, and pleading to shoot what I could shoot. And there were many times where Crosby, we had a hard time keeping up with him. And, you know, I felt like we needed to shoot that because any concert could be the great big concert that he goes out into the sunset with. I mean, hate to be morbid. I'm sorry.
AJ!
I'm sorry, but I could. But I was presented with this like
friends I have.
But you wrote the song "Time's the Final Currency," and so I was trying to take advantage of that and serve that. And so I, you know, was shooting, and I couldn't afford to shoot a lot of things that needed to be shot, but I couldn't afford not to shoot it. And so, but I got to a point where I was like, I was out of money. I was, you know, going to lose my, you know, my Sally, it was everything. So, and then, and we had a lot of really weird Hollywood meetings about this project where there were companies that were like, you know, we'll finance that if we can put like our top hip hop artist in the, which again, you know, no, that's not going to happen. And so I basically just kind of resigned. This movie may not be made. I'll just take the footage and put it, you know, in storage. Went to Jill Mazursky, who's here tonight, her office at Bad Robot. She's believed in this movie since the beginning. And with just having a
troublemaker, I tell you.
and so in the office was Cameron. I was like, that's it. Why didn't I think about that sooner? So Jill, you know, advocated. Cameron said, well, I'll meet with you the next day. And we sat down and we basically hit it off. And he said, I really like what you're doing. And there it was.
Take it.
Yeah.
So then,
They've done this before. Can you guys tell?
Cameron, he's 15 years old, way too smart, graduates from high school. Rolling Stone gives him a job, sends him out to write about bands. Us and Led Zeppelin. We stick a joint in his mouth, introduce him to a bunch of girls. And his life changes a little. We all loved him. Everybody in both of those bands loved him. Everybody in all the bands that he talked to loved him because he was really smart.
Except, as I remember it, you stuck a joint in your mouth and introduced me to your girlfriends. And I had a front row seat. But go ahead.
Go ahead. Details.
When I ran into AJ, he had the fire in him to make this film. And David had the fire in him to tell his story. And I just had to be a fan at that point and say, you guys, like, I'm here working on the hit TV show Roadies. And I'm too busy to really be a part of this right now. But let me tell you, as a fan, put the camera on David Crosby and let him talk. Don't get a bunch of talking heads and people together to tell you this and that. Stick with him. He tells the story as well as Garrison Keillor in my book. And put the camera on him, mic him in a warm, personal way, and let me interview him for you.
Yep.
And take the footage, do whatever you want with it, give me credit, but make a great film. And so we did an interview, first interview, and David, just like in the first interview we did when I was a kid, you went deep, utterly intimate and personal in your answers. And basically, we just kept interviewing you, and I became available, and we all just had a wonderful time making this film come alive.
I trust him. That's what happened.
The minute these two started talking, you know, my rapport with Crosby is different, and these guys have a rapport, and the minute they started talking, I was like, the snorkeling expedition that I was on just became a deep dive scuba dive with like an auxiliary tank, because they were going deep.
Yeah. It has basically to do with me trusting you guys. It made it possible. Now you got to understand, they're both my friends, but when they start being filmmakers, different deal. They're filmmakers then. So they gave me absolutely, particularly Cameron, who knows where all the bones are buried. You know, he was there. He was in the dressing room when that argument happened. I mean, whatever it was, he was there. So I have nowhere to hide at all, which I really liked. That's exactly how it should be.
Melena, in the first interview we did, it might have been the first question I asked him in that first interview. He had a theme, and the theme is, what do you do with the time you have left? It was a very proactive kind of line that he was immediately drawing for us and said, I've wasted a lot of time. He says it in the film. I was smashed for at least 10 years of great music that could have happened, but I was smashed. But I'm not going to be a guy that just, paints you with regret. I want to talk about what you do with the time you have left, because time is the ultimate currency. And I felt, well, that's the movie.
That's it.
Wait a minute, brother, I gotta write that down. Time.
It's too late, man. We did it. Poor Melena's waiting to ask another question. We're just like, yeah.
So what that was the impetus for you to make the movie now. You decided to trust this guy who'd never made a film before, Cameron, who you knew when he was a 15-year-old rock journalist miscreant. Why did you decide, I'm going to do this at this moment? You had that energy to do it now.
It's a good question. I understand this resurgence just as little as you do. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand why it's going this well. I'm just grateful as hell that it's going this way. I thought, I went through a long time in that 12-step program. And the idea of looking at your mistakes and then setting them down and walking away, walking forward, instead of spending your time looking over your shoulder at your mistakes. That appealed to me a great deal. And there is, catharsis. It's a known thing, and this film unquestionably did some of that for me. It lightens your load. If you can look at stuff, if you can talk to people that you trust about stuff, and express yourself. A lot of the time, man, I realize things by hearing myself say them. I mean, I'm.
That's every journalist's dream, to have had someone say that.
It happens with me all the time. Sometimes to the detriment of everything, and sometimes really wonderfully. Sometimes I shoot my mouth off about somebody else's girlfriend.
On that topic, you're talking about Neil Young. Obviously, a big part of the film is about this tension of you wanting to make music again with this seminal band and not necessarily having the connections to do that. You guys did not ask the other band members to participate in the film, and I want to ask you why you made that choice.
Well, either of us can answer. I felt that once you open the door to a movie that is about will Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young get back together, you're kind of diminishing the kind of wonderful idea of what if the story is about a guy wondering why they're not getting back together, and what did I do to be in this situation, and will they watch this movie and call him? Is the movie, in fact, the letter that you send to your loved ones to say, here's how I felt about you? And there was a little bit of communication between the camps, mostly private stuff where they said, good luck with your movie. I hope it's honest. I got that a few times. But we didn't officially ask them to get involved. Oddly, we wanted to get the Byrds guys involved. Because the Byrds music, as we were making the film, the Byrds music is so vital. The Byrds music survives in such an amazing way. So we brought a couple Byrds in. But it felt like it was more powerful to not have Graham and Stephen and Neil trying to answer issues in the film. Maybe that's for life and not the film.
I think you guys are all reading more into it than's there, in terms of it being a communication to them or about an apology to them or wanting to be with them. I don't hate those guys at all. I don't have any bad feelings in my heart about them. But all of my focus, all of it, is on forward. It's on what I have to do today, what I need to do tomorrow, what I want to do next week, what I would like to accomplish next year. I'm in 2 really good bands. I've made 4 records in 4 years. I'm halfway through a 5th one. I'm not really looking to try and put that band to get back together. If there were a purpose. Now, I get probably 10 posts a day saying, would you please quit arguing with each other and do your job? We need you as a voice speaking for us out there now, because we're the ones who did Ohio. It's in their heads. We're the ones who did Chicago. We're the ones who did A Long Time Gone, Cut My Hair. All of that stuff is in their heads. And they wish we were out there doing our job. I get that. But this film isn't really aimed at them. I don't even think they're going to watch it. But it's not really to them or about them or for them. Look, if you make a documentary about a person, there's a lot of ways you can go at it. You can do a shine job. Oh, isn't he cute? I'm not cute. You can do something that we all agreed we had a complete unity of purpose. We agreed absolutely about the level we wanted to approach it at. And I think that's what appealed to me. I wasn't trying to send a message to them. I hope that they're okay, and I want them to have a good life. But I'm really not reaching out to them with this film. I think he, who knows all of them as well as I do, and he's known them as long as I have, would like to see it because a lot of people love that band. When you start a band, you're in love with each other, and the music's really exciting. 40 years later, when we finish the story, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so 40 years later, when it devolves into turn on your smoke machine and play the hits, it's not. I left there because I had to, and I'm very happy. I'm ecstatic with the situation I'm in and the music I'm getting to make. I've got unbelievably talented people that I'm working with, and my friends tell me that it's some of the best music I've ever made. So, if this documentary is about a particular thing, I think it's more about how strange it is, that my life is not going the way we all expected it to go. Mostly, we all thought I was going to die 30 years ago, and now, it's puzzling. It's joyful, but it's puzzling. That's really sort of what I thought it should be about.
That's what I was initially really inspired by.
That's what you told me.
Yeah. I mean, I was inspired by the fact that the music that he's writing is luscious, and it's a window into a soul that has a lot to say. And the lyrics on some of these albums are talking about the very things that we address. Christine, there's lyrics on the last album that are about Christine. So it seems like, you're kind of accepting and reliving that and kind of setting that baggage down, like one of the songs that you wrote.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have this incredible footage, especially of the early days. Some of the sailing footage is very beautiful.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. What did it feel like to look back on that stuff?
Painful.
Painful.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's painful. I had to sell that boat, and I didn't want to sell it. I had had it 50 years, and I'd gotten it perfect. And I wanted to keep sailing it until I died. And I had to sell it because I couldn't keep it up anymore. Largely because streaming doesn't pay us for our records, he said.
Are there any Spotify executives in the audience? I want to ask actually about the footage. That your dad was an Oscar-winning cinematographer. Did he ever teach you to use a camera? Did you learn anything about being an artist from him?
I was conspicuously not good with a camera anywhere above water. When I get underwater, that's how weird it is. Underwater, I can shoot. I have really good photographs that I've taken underwater. Above water, hopeless, just hopeless. And my dad was a brilliant still photographer as well as a great cinematographer. Not a great dad, but really good at cinematography.
When I first kind of looked at how we were going to shoot, the shooting style, I wanted to shoot the movie like Floyd Crosby would have shot the movie. Wow. Same lenses, same style. I went and studied all of his movies, and we used some vintage lenses on some of these interview shoots, and I was trying to channel Floyd as much as we could in this. A lot
of people studied him for framing and picturing. Yeah. He was good.
He's a master.
Anyway, moving swiftly along.
Well, let's talk about a sense of place. You know, you travel back to Laurel Canyon where you lived and hung out, and you're kind of, I'm going to say, a little bit cranky about going there.
A little cranky.
The grumpy crows.
In retrospect, does sense of place matter to you? Did it matter to your career and how your songs unfolded?
It did. We looked upon it differently than people do now that the legend has grown. When I first moved there, and I was the first one to move there, it was so I could get above the smog line. It was like to get up in clean air where there's trees. It wasn't like, then what happened was other people had the same idea. And there were also little, old houses up there that you could get into that weren't creepy. And other people started moving with their Cass. Cass and I were really tight buddies. And then Joni moved up there. And a lot of people. There was a community. There wasn't really a place downtown where we would go and hang out, in a bar or the way you do here. There are places where you go and hang out with other people. There, we all went to each other's houses. Cass's more than any place else. And hung out and talked and smoked joints.
Is it true that your wife grows all your weed?
Wifey, should I tell her? Yeah, we do grow ours. She has a green thumb, and she's a very good person with plants, almost as good as she is with animals. She's a magician with animals.
And she also knit your signature hat, is that
She
right?
did make this hat, yeah.
A hand for Joan. For Jan, please.
I want to say something about, this was the first time that Jan has gone on camera. And I'm really honored that she gave us that trust. And it's hard to bring a film crew in your house and really, and it's very intrusive and it's...
And you were asking her hard stuff.
Yeah.
You weren't any lighter on her than you were on me. And she came through for it.
She did.
That's the hidden magic of the movie, I think, is that love story. And because Jan trusted us and talked to us that day, the whole movie just kind of blossomed. And to me, AJ shot this incredible moment where it's in the film. David comes home from the tour, and I watched this hug between Jan and David all the time, and watched it a lot in the editing room, and just would say, you can't act that like that. It just doesn't
42 years.
feel like that. That hug, you can't do that in Hollywood.
No.
Yeah, no, it's a great hug.
It lives in life.
The expression on her
Only in
face.
life.
The expression on her face.
We all want that hug, right?
I know the exact moment you're talking about, and the expression on her face is exactly why I fell in love with her, right there. That smile,
Yeah.
that's why I fell in love with her,
man.
right there. Had nothing to do with how good she looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. We got those little nuggets all the way along, and it just kind of would give us booster rockets. And AJ would go out on the road and grab that amazing footage of David just weary, ending the tour, stuff like that. I would, of course, be the guy that asked to go up to Laurel Canyon, and David would be supremely, obstinate about it. But then, and I would say,
You kept
just
trying to sell me the Doors, man. Come on.
well, but I said, just walk in the store. Let's just get some footage of you walking in the store. And he's walking in the store, looking around. This picture of the Doors. Come on, what is this? But there was this great moment where you're by the refrigerators, and I just feel like, oh man, he's going to go there. He's going to speak about this whole thing in metaphor. And I said, what does this place mean to you? What did it mean to you? And the look on his face, if you ever see this movie again, is it's the place where we went to get the groceries. Jesus. And even the guy that works in the store behind him is looking at me what a lame question. And I'm just sitting there trying to get a fucking metaphor going. And but then a minute later, he's outside on this picnic table, out in front of, it couldn't be more public. Mm-hmm. He's out in front of the Laurel Canyon store. It's 5 o'clock. There's traffic all the way up the street, right behind our cameras. People are looking at him. And he's telling us the most deeply raw, emotional, intimate stuff about his relationships that he ever told me and that I've ever seen you talk about in an interview. So thank you for going to the Laurel Canyon Country Store. Yeah. He's still not totally sold on it. There's
no cinematic value here at all.
That's when you get the son of Floyd Crosby, when he's like, there's no cinematic value in this whatsoever. And he walks out and just turns his back on us.
My favorite moment is Morrison. What a dork. That's not my favorite line. My favorite line in the entire film is when I was a caboose to my dick. So expressive, so poetic.
Was that the first time you'd said that, or is that like?
You have that in your
no.
back pocket.
Okay.
He's got
When I
Crosby.
take up a good one, I save it.
Crosby has the best idioms and metaphors. We were shooting that same day. I was like, well, you know, it's hot. It was 100 degrees up there, and we were shooting. He goes, well, it's your idea to raise that baby hippo, man. I just thought that was so cool. Or like, boy, that's about as deep as a bird bath. That's my favorite one.
That one.
Yeah,
Love
that one I like. Deep as a bird bath I use.
You need that like a stag, or like a stag needs a hat rack. Yeah. I love that one.
I collect them, little Englishisms. What were you trying to say?
Sorry. We went off rails.
We've done this before. You can tell.
No,
Quite like this though. This is freewheeling.
I did want to ask, I mean, there is a really honest moment in the film where, I mean, there's many of them, but one of the things that is captured in the film is the dynamic between your wife and you, where she says, you know, I thought at some point that he would put family first. And, you know, that is a very raw and honest
It's a
explanation
powerful thing to say.
of what a musician's life might be like.
It is, you know, it is exactly like that. There are only two things in my life that really I give a shit about, and one of them sitting right there. And the other is the music. And I love my family, and I love being there, and I have to sing. It's the only gift I have, and it's the only way I can make anything better. And things need to be made better, and that's the truth. Things are a little dark out there right now. And what's James Taylor's song, Shed a Little Light?
So when you're very open about not being, as you put it, the easiest guy to be around, and you talk about, you know, issues that you had with your bandmates, sort of personal issues. But were you musically on the same page? Did you fight about lyrics and melodies?
Not much, no. Those bands, and the bands I'm in now are fully cooperative bands, and it's a better way to do it. Those bands, CSN and CSNY, which are two completely different bands, please understand that. Both of them are fully competitive, right, from the get-go, all the time, 24/7, all the time, full out foot race, trying to beat each other. But we made some unbelievably good music that way, you know. I think you can go at it either way you like. I like the way I'm doing it now better.
Is that something that you've learned in your, 40 plus years in the business?
Yep. And it has to do with the gift that I've been given of the people that's come into my life, starting with my son, James. James, best writing partner I've ever had. He didn't know I was his dad. Imagine how he felt when he found out. And he's a better musician than I am. Michael Leake, the band leader and composer for a jazz band called Snarky Puppy. Unbelievably talented guy. He brought Becca Stevens, Michelle Willis. I've got other friends, Michael McDonald, other people that I write with. Those people have elevated my level of writing and my level of performance drastically. Because, they're all younger than I am, and I have to paddle faster to keep up. It's good.
It's really cool that you have the courage and to do that, to work and challenge yourself with a bunch of, a lot of people in your position would be afraid of that, and I just admire that so much.
I think you're crazy. It gives you such a thrill. Music gives you such a thrill when you do it right. Mm-hmm. And these people are immensely talented. And I think that's the one of the largest points that's caused this resurgence in my life is that I've been gifted with an unbelievable bunch of co-conspirators.
So that thrill is undiminished. The touring life is rough. It's rough on anybody. It's rough, especially as you get older.
Beats the crap out of me, totally. But yeah, no, singing. It's better than everything except sex. It's really good.
You guys got that line, right? The movie's title comes from one of your solo albums. Do you really have worries? Do you have concerns that you might be forgotten?
No, and I didn't think it was a good title. There are a number of things. There are a number of things that I said, no, that can't be in it. And they just went right on ahead and put it in. I did not have Final Cut. I did not have, and they were totally not answerable. Cameron, I mean it. That can't go in. Sure, Dave, no problem. It just, they don't care. They don't care at all.
One day he hung up on me. I need to be seeing footage right now. Click. And I called him back and said, it's like a song. I'm not going to play you a verse or a chorus. I have to play the whole song to you first. And he said, okay. He backed off.
All right. Well, it was a good line.
Well, work.
What did you want the title to be?
Not going to tell you. Well, the porno stuff.
We were lovingly calling it the Crosby-mentary. It's not a documentary, it's a Crosby-mentary.
I thought Remember My Name was good because it kind of referenced his first solo album, which is one of my favorite records ever, 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 If I Could Only Remember My Name. And I remember our conversation about it when David was expressing dismay at the title. And I'm like, but David, don't you see? It references If I Could Only Remember. I got it. I get it. Okay? You love the album. I get it.
Great, yeah, great.
But I must say, over time, I'm hoping you come to embrace it. May never happen. But
I think basically it sucks.
What
It's
it
two
does
against
for
one.
me, it says we're going to be intimate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you have 3 answers.
You know, I brought something to show you guys.
Oh, man. Oh, you shouldn't have. What a thing.
That's not the original.
No, but it's a very
It's
good
what's
copy.
in the movie, though. That's it.
Does it look familiar?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been trying to get that as a priceless artifact. Indiana Jones has been saying that belongs in a museum.
Yeah,
Anyway.
they're right. They're right.
We all have our Cross obsessions.
Yeah. That's understandable. That'll be up on eBay before this is over.
Do you want to pose with it again? You guys going to take a photo back there?
Do they have questions?
No,
You gonna do it, or you
we're
can
not
just-
going to do any
just do it?
audience Q&A.
What else you got?
Sorry,
You know, there's Twitter, right? He's out there on Twitter.
That's true. Or the Rolling Stone thing. And that's so funny. Okay, so I'm home. Rolling Stone calls. They say, hey, so we would like you to do an advice column. And I start laughing right away. I said, you got to be out of your mind. Nobody in their right mind would ask me for advice about anything. You've got to be crazy. And they said, yeah, that's why it's funny. We want to do it. And so we're doing it. And so far, it's been pretty funny.
It's funny.
Does that make me, yeah, the guy who said, I cheated on my wife, does it make me a bad person? I said, yeah.
Cross, like, you know about things like Tinder and stuff. Like, you recommended someone go on Tinder on one of your advice. Like,
I did not.
You did.
I don't even know how.
Well, I read it. So
You go
anyway.
on there. I don't,
Not
I'm
on.
married. I don't need you.
But you, oh, never mind. It's a long story.
Yeah, right. Throw me under the bus again.
No.
This is how our whole relationship is. It's wonderful. We abuse each other continually. We used to be, all of us used to be hippies. And we used to be, hey, bro, I really love you, man. And it got icky. It was just too sweet. It was saccharine, right? So we started going, hey, fish lips. And it's much more comfortable. I can abuse Cameron because I know Cameron knows that I love him. And that therefore it's okay for me to call him fish lips. It's all right. Even his girlfriend thinks it's funny.
With the love. With the love.
We're just about out of time.
Thanks, man.
Well,
Thank you.
But
Can I tell you a tiny story?
yeah, we're not
This
going
is-
to end on fish lips,
This
don't
is
worry.
this is typical. This is in the Fish Lips family. I was 17 on the road with Crosby and Nash, and an incredible time. Just an incredible time. Every show amazing, and I'm just like at the side of the stage or wherever I can be, making notes. And Crosby comes up to me one day and goes, "I remember when you used to be much more together." walks away. And I think for 2 days, I was like staring at the ceiling, going like, where did I lose it? Where did I lose it?
didn't take me
David
seriously.
Crosby told me I used to be much more together. I'm only 17. What am I going to do now? So you do that thing, you know, where you just kind of like screw up your courage, and like another day passed, and I came up to him and I was like, you know, David, I was thinking about that thing you told me. I used to be much more together. And he goes, I say that to everybody.
You know, when we're going on stage, we'll catch each other just before you go on stage. You're not going to wear that, are you?
So it goes both ways.
Yes, it
The
does.
He does that.
mercilessness goes both ways.
It absolutely does. and
Always.
both of them are experts at this and have slayed me mightily many times. I just want you to know, it's an even-handed thing. It's all very good.
Let's end on one last thought. You guys have talked a little bit about the idea of, the future and collaborating with younger people and what that draws out of you. And I want you to sort of talk a little bit more about that as we end on our parting note, as what you're expecting to do. You've got this 5th album coming out. You are engaged in a way that many people of your generation may not be. What do you hope that is bringing to your life and to your audience?
Great question.
Yeah.
Okay. The main thing I can contribute, right, is to make some more music. That's the main thing I can do to make your life better, or their life better, or my life better. I do think I'm going to have to do some work for one candidate or another in what's coming up, because we can't let it keep going the direction it's going. I'm not happy about that. I believe in the system. I really do believe in the system. I have thought about it and studied it and worked with it for a bit. And democracy is a good idea. It's bent right now because of the amount of pressure corporate money can put on it. It's not broken. It's in the hands of an idiot, and we do need to change it. But it's going to take work. And so I think in the near future, I'm probably going to try to finish this record. I'm going to probably do some more live work, because that's the only way I make any money. And I need to be able to pay the rent, same as you. But I am going to have to start. Do you know about Greta Thunberg?
Yes, I do. But tell the audience members.
Okay, there's a little girl named Greta Thunberg. She's 16 years old. She's Swedish. She's autistic. She's very smart. And she started learning about global warming and the crisis that's coming upon us, realized what was going on, and went and said she's going to not go to school on Friday anymore. And she went to the Swedish parliament, sat outside, and essentially said, listen, I don't mean to disturb you all, but the house is on fire. And you've got to start paying attention. And she's arresting. She looks at you in a way that bores right into you. You can't ignore her. She's too honest. She's got that school strike going in 135 countries now. It's a biggie. If you look at her on the net, it's a piece of good news. It will give you some hope. She's an inspiring young person.
Like that.
When I say inspiring, I'm pretty sure that she's the reason that my friend David Gilmour just sold his guitar collection. I think that's where the money's going.
Wow.
So your connection to people like that is what's driving you?
It's one of, we're citizens. We live here. We have children. When you have children, you've got to look down the line and try to protect them. That's what we're supposed to do. And our kids are being handed the short end of the stick here. That's probably as important to me in the next couple of years as music is, almost. I don't see how we can do anything else. We have to stick up for what we believe in, but we also have to make it possible for our kids to have have a home. Got to. So.
Thank you for that. Thank you guys. Thank you, audience. Thank you for joining us.